Generally, you may hear of backlight being broken down into 4 terms: rim light, edge light, hair light, and kicker. Edge light can seem very similar to rim light, which we looked at in part 1, but unlike the rim light, separating every edge of the subject from the background, edge light is often used as a term to describe backlight on one side, or edge, of a subject, and it can be just as useful as rim light when emphasizing a narrative, or creating a feeling in an image, as we can combine it with direction and composition. For an example of edge light, maybe our character is on the phone. A moody sunset streams in through the kitchen window, setting a somber tone, and he's hearing something he'd rather not be hearing. We see a serious expression on his face as he considers this unsettling situation, the evening sun beating down on the back of his head, almost putting him into complete shadow. A similar situation with our character on the phone, sun shining in through the back window. Now we have a bit more light in the room itself, and on our character, making the overall mood feel a little lighter, maybe even a little more hopeful. We could contribute this more hopeful feeling to the overall brighter look, and we would be right to think that. But also consider what type of backlighting we're seeing in both of these examples, the edge light. And which side of our subject's head is this edge light on? It's on the front of the face in the lighter shot, and primarily on the back of the head in the moodier shot. This positioning of edge light further accentuates the mood and feelings presented. In the lighter shot, our subject is pointed toward these hopeful rays of sunlight. In the darker shot, he's facing away from them, into the shadow. On top of this, our lighter subject is facing right, giving our eyes a more left to right reading of the scene, which is the way a lot of us read words and interpret progress. Our darker subject is facing left, the wrong way. So these feelings are communicated by composition and lighting, which was built from a main edge light in both setups. In the moodier scenario, we simply placed a Forza 720B outside of the window to represent sunset. Because of the tight angle, we needed to put the light quite close to the window, so we used the FL20G Fresnel lens to focus the light and make our beam more even across the location, creating a more realistic sunset. Since we set our 720B to a warm colour temperature to better emulate sunset, the overcast day outside didn't quite match up. In post, we used a power window to brighten and warm up the area outside, so it better matched the intended lighting. For the close-up, we started by moving our light's position slightly to better edge light the back of our subject's head. This time, we set our 720B's colour temperature to a similar temperature as the outside ambient, so it would blend into the scene, and pushed up our camera's white balance, creating an overall warmth. We wanted the shot to feel much darker, but our sun is bouncing from multiple surfaces in the kitchen, raising the shadows and creating a hard patch of light on our subject's face. So we used a boom arm to hold some black material behind and around the camera, also placing some closer to our subject in places our sunset was bouncing from, removing this extra light from the image. This almost silhouetted subject better aligns with our vision for the shot, and better matches the deeper shadows in the previous setup. To bring back a little detail around our subject's facial features, we roughly bounced a Forza 500B2 into the wall and cupboard near him, set to the same temperature as our 720B, or sunset. Since this lighting fixture features a tint adjustment, we were able to correct for any shift in tint from the area we were bouncing from, along with any differences in tint between the 720B and 500B2, making sure the light on the face matched up with the rest of the image. This setup made for the lighting conditions we wanted to create the mood we envisioned for the scene, with the edge light emphasizing the feelings in the image. In the lighter feeling scene, we started with the curtains closed behind camera, with some evening light coming through a window in the background. We set up a Forza 500B2 outside the back window, Fresnel lens attached, so that we could direct and focus our light through the house and make for a more realistic sunlight. This is a very contrasty, moody look, which would definitely suit a darker scene, but we want something a bit lighter, so we can build off the subtle, hopeful implications we've made with edge light at the front of our right-facing subject. We simply placed a Forza 60C reflector dish attached and bounced it from the corner of the room. As much of the room is a warmer colour, we set this light to a cooler colour temperature than our sun, offsetting the warmer walls a little, matching both sunlight and environment. This provided a little light inside the room, playing off of the light coming through the back window, and also adding some detail to the face. It's still a little dark, so we added a second Forza 60C bare bulb to better spread the light and bounce from a larger section of the room, filling in more of our shadows, revealing more detail and brightening our image, whilst retaining some shape on the face. 2 shots, 2 different moods, emphasised by both subject direction and placement of edge light on the face. You don't necessarily need a super bright image to represent lighter feelings, or a heavily underexposed shot to represent darker feelings. You can build it up in subtle ways, the underlying narrative carried by something as simple as an edge light. In part 3, we'll take a look at both hair light and kicker, and how these backlights can make for great ways to separate your subject from the background, whilst working with the rest of your scene's lighting and intention.